like annoy you.
All right, three, two, one. That's on your end. That's on your end, buddy. All right, there we go. Perfect. And that was our. Hello, everyone. Hi, Navi. How you doing? Hello, everyone in chat. Uh, I mean, I like the sound of my own voice, but I just kept hearing it over again. We have Grant Nichols. We have Ash. We have Grant. And we have so far. We have other people joining in. Oh, yep. Numbers going up. Hi. So, for anybody who has no idea how this stuff works, because it's really weird, and it's all magic. Any technology that's distinguishable from magic. But how this Riverside stuff works is it's really a lot of buttons. Like technology just has it's like being in a cockpit, like in like a 747 cockpit. And I get confused by it all the time, and I'm a developer, and you're trying to do software development, and I feel sorry for y'all because you're gonna see how deep that rabbit hole goes. It's a deep dark. They just changed their name to Navi. Probably needs to get headphones. Oh man, that's hilarious. Uh, and now Navi, I can't hear you.
Hear me now? Okay, all right, cool. I'm so sorry, guys. Trying to navigate Riverside and Twitch. And Twitch is just a beast. Like it's so there's just it's a lot. The setup is just confusing. I feel like a dinosaur when I'm like trying to interact with Twitch. I'm like I'm old. This is for like Gen Z.
Hey, the person who said Navi probably needs to get headphones. They said their name to that. Now they're asking, wait, how do you change your name?
Oh,
Oh,
you set yourself
you
up.
said up. Oh no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Maybe if you just and then come back, then you can change your name. Try now. That. And if you do incognito, maybe incognito. No, I don't know. That's a good question. All right, winding down to today's program. So this is it is not your regular professional community. We talk about software development and we talk about careers in tech, but it's a little bit less, and it's a lot more about it's about other people. It's less about technology players. It's less about companies, and it's about what you folks are going through. Today's talk is how to talk to strangers online for fun and profit. And because it's educational, I guess this is it, edutainment. It's edutainment at its finest, isn't it? We're doing
I like that.
edutainment. I hate that. No, I don't. I don't. I hate that word edutainment, and I hate the fact that we're edutaining. But we are edutaining.
Hey,
Um,
it's
and
better so
well, that's
you
true.
gotta
This is very true. So how this works is if you or YouTube, Navi has her eyes on us.
I'm
If
I'm
you're
trying to.
on Discord or Riverside, if you're not on Riverside, you won't be able to call in. So if you want to call in and you want to be a part of the conversation, all you have to do is riverside.fm. There's a link to it page for the event on mintbean.io. There's a link to there's a link to it on Discord. Those, then well, you won't be able to get on the call and talk to us like face to face, mano a mano. But um, if you chat, I think that should. And Navi's going to be collecting all of your questions, and we'll be going through all of the questions that come through. Uh, and if you go on Riverside, you can actually call in. Okay, so Navi, we called this session "How to Talk to Strangers Online for Profit,"
Mhm.
and I wanted to ask you how to do that because I only online for fun, but you do it for profit because you're the one who's going out there, the one who's reaching out to people, and you're the one who's trying to bring in it's your. I feel like our titles are misaligned. I feel like I'm the CTO and you're the CEO, but somehow I'm the CEO and you're the COO, which is kind of weird.
I know,
But
but
you're really doing the what? What's
they
that?
don't. I feel like are almost make believe in startup. They don't really mean anything. You can call yourself whatever. Like you can call yourself like poopy head, and it means what does it mean? Like right?
I mean, if you
So,
call yourself a poopy head and you put that on a business card, I think that's a lot about you. I don't know what you think about that.
but no, I'm actually really excited about this conversation because I honestly think that the word networking is over and there's a pretense to it and people don't understand how to, especially when it comes to the professional space. Like I think that because you come from a video game world, gaming, like you're kind of used to having very and like not having that pretense, and it's like my brother play video games as well, and I've grown like where
Yeah.
you're being sort of kind of offensive to like other people that you're jamming with, but it's like how do you transition that to a professional space, and that's really what we
Mm.
want to talk about today. So before anyone else wants to jump in, I think like let's warm up the conversation, and like as people join in, please feel comfortable to. You don't have to have your camera on if you don't feel like it. We want to hear your voice, and if you want to share your, that's an added bonus. But you shouldn't feel like you can't talk just because you don't want to share your video. With that, let's talk about what do you want to talk about when it comes to talking to strangers?
Well, I okay. So I'm a shy guy. Well, I was a shy dude, not anymore. I've come into my own and I've worked on myself. I'm really comfortable in my own skin now. But it wasn't always like that. I was probably one of the shyest people that I knew. Granted that I didn't know a lot of people because I was shy and I didn't make friends. I was really shy. Like I would get on the phone and I'd try to order pizza. I would freeze up and hang up, not knowing what the person who was taking my order on the line. Like I couldn't order phone. So when the internet kind of started becoming a big thing, for me it was revolutionary. Like for me, I felt um like I always felt like I had this handicap when talking to people. I always felt like I couldn't. I felt judged. Like, as soon as I opened my mouth, I felt judged, and I was just psych myself, and I would probably psych the other. Probably feel super awkward around me because I was being awkward. I started blowing up. Um, Comfortable in chat rooms. I was probably the most expressive person I knew in written form. I can wax poetic like in a chat room all day, every day. A lot of people know that about me. I have no idea putting my thoughts there in written format, and I type at like 120 WPM, so I can like that's my element. It's worked for me, and it has worked for me for years. Like I've met a lot of really cool people and emails and text conversations. But now that the internet is coming full circle and you gotta talk online, use your wordy mouthy noises online. I I still I feel like a part of me is still um, resisting that. Maybe we could talk about other people's experiences too. As how do they feel talking to people online? First off, how do you feel chatting with people? Because I know I'm the exception. I think most people actually find chatting super awkward and weird.
Yeah.
And now that things are opening up and online and well in person too, but now that things are opening up and actually talk to people, see them online, and have conversations online, face to face, like we are now. What what's the like how navigate those waters and this whole thing about LinkedIn? And some people seem to be able to grow their accounts to 10,000 a month. Um, how does that work? Is the algorithm for connecting with people online like you're
First of all, if
annoying
I could
them? I know. I know. As you can see, I'm not shy anymore. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on how to talk to strangers online for fun and profit?
So you said a lot there. Let's break that down from like the beginning. Obviously, I know you really well, and I've so for those of you new to our world, Monarch is my husband. We've been together for a decade, and I've known him actually longer than we went to school together, and I've kind of like watched you grow out of that very awkward young person to what you are today. Um, and I think that like when it comes to finding your online voice, it's gonna have a very different path. When you look at all of said a lot, so I'm gonna have to break that down. Of which finding like because of how whether it was gaming or whether it was online chat, which medium are you the most comfortable with? So let's figure that out before we say, okay, yeah,
No,
go net.
hold on. Medium is not something that gets brought up a lot in the context of networking. What do you mean by medium? I mean, isn't there just like text and spoken? I mean, what do you mean by medium?
Okay, good question. So let's start with first. Okay, that I guess that it's more complex than just text or audio or video, because then you add a layer of platform to that as well, right? So first there's, are you? I'm actually not as I've seen you behind a typewriter, and I don't type that fast.
You've never seen me
Talking
behind a typewriter.
a computer, Monarch, a computer.
I mean, I know I've used really years. I don't think I've used anything that's that old.
All
Go
right.
for it.
Well,
Sorry.
uh, no thought. So, because with in chat rooms, like it's really natural for you to communicate in chat. It's not natural for me. I didn't grow up in chat rooms. Um, so it's not very natural for me to like engage with people in chat. Like I'm still working on that muscle. And for me, like conversations are very natural. I grew up in a very large family, and you just kind of were forced to be around people. So it's just like very natural for me to open up conversations with strangers because I a very large family that was up in your face all the time, and you just had to sort of engage with my house was like a revolving door. Like my dad siblings and like their children just were constantly over. So I got very comfortable with verbal communication because of that. So that's the first piece, figuring out like do you are you better at chat in terms of the spoken word, or are you better maybe like recording yourself, and some people, I remember, I don't know if this person would feel comfortable if I identified them by name, but someone that we worked with in the past, they had sort of a childhood trauma where they weren't comfortable with the camera lens, brought up like a lot of these childhood memories, and they didn't like being on Zoom, which actually is really, we don't talk about that, right? Like how people feel about being recorded.
Hmm.
And are is everyone comfortable with recorded and like having their face kind of, you're looking at yourself and you're looking at the other person at the same time, and that's not how conversations naturally happen.
Hmm.
You don't like when if I'm talking to you offline or someone else, like there's not a mirror of me that's like looking at conversation. That's like a very weird thing. That's I think that Zoom brings in, or just any sort of where there it's a video format. So I think that's the first piece of the puzzle. And then the second layer is finding that platform, right? Let's list them all. So there's Twitter. We'll kind of go into LinkedIn last, but let's talk about the ones that are professional first. So there's Twitter, there's Facebook, Instagram. So those are the big main ones, right? And now like you have things like Clubhouse, and then you have Discord channels, you have Slack. Am I missing any of the small?
Um, Probably like all of them.
TikTok,
No.
Snapchat.
Yeah. Snapchat.
Um,
Yeah. I haven't used
um,
Snapchat anymore. Yeah.
yeah, we don't use it.
And then
I
there's
think we're
OnlyFans. I think connect with people in an authentic, genuine way where you can just be there. Hang out.
use OnlyFans. There's
I
just too many out there.
that feel comfortable with you using OnlyFans.
What is it? Is it like a rated R?
Oh gosh. Yeah, yeah. It started off as like this video, like you would content and put it out there for people, and it started turning into like, just and people sell porn on there, like amateur homemade porn on there. And
Okay.
it's like the biggest thing in porn these days apparently is like OnlyFans everywhere on the internet, and
So I'm
it's
curious
just
why
so
you
weird.
said that would be your medium. What the
I
hell?
never did. I wouldn't feel comfortable with you being on it. I just threw it out there, and you're like, "Oh, what's OnlyFans?" I don't think we should talk about OnlyFans.
Okay, moving along.
You
Um,
asked about the smaller platforms. It's your fault.
all right. Yeah, no, it's like, so I, coming back to the conversation,
Yeah.
I'm actually not as active on Twitter because I find Twitter just, it takes a lot of my energy. For Twitter, I kind of just like browsing on Twitter, looking at just what people are saying, maybe just or retweeting what they have to say. I feel like it just requires too much of my time. It's very noisy. To get a following. Actually, I spoke to Yuri. Talked about people being able to build an from 0 to 3,000. I think she built in 2 weeks. I think she's at
Hmm.
10,000 now. So I actually talked to
Really?
her last week.
Wow.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and she to bring her on. She's in South Korea, so we have to figure out time zones. So I need to
Hmm.
get back to her on that. But she was like, she shared her strategy in that blog post about she engages with every single, up until 400 people followed her. She engaged with every single person, DM them, thank them, and like engaged with them. And we were chatting, and she was like, she's in university, she's in her last year, and she was telling me that it feels like a full-time job being on Twitter, and she's only been on it for like, but she's been able to kind of like captivate her like a large audience. But
Hmm.
it's not easy. Like she's like, I don't have time to
Hmm.
code as well, right? I feel like when we talk about networking, it's like balancing all of these things. It's a very complex topic, and I feel like people try to package it in like this like very down of like, oh, like network, like comment, post, blog, and it's like, well, there are lots of other things that need to happen in a day. Like you need to, especially if coming back to our developer community, it's like them are still learning how to code, and that means that you need to put in the time to like build projects, do applications or do take home tests, do assessments, live, breathe, eat, and then you're supposed to spend all this time on. Is that, how realistic is that? um, like that's what I want to talk about as well. So that's how I feel about Twitter, but other people love Twitter because that's their jam, and they can, quickly take their thoughts and like jam it in 50 or 250 characters, and do such a great job at conveying their message. Now let's kind of go into, you have wonderful platforms like dev.to, or the dev2. I don't know how people pronounce it these days. Is it dev.to
Um,
or is it dev2? What's the
I did
street
Edward.
name?
It's
What?
I call it Edward. Eddie. Edward.
You call it Edward? Is this a thing? Or
Yeah. That's how it's pronounced.
I'm very gullible, and Monarch knows this about me. So I don't know if this is truth or not. But I'm just
So
gonna.
I have this dry sense of humor and deadpan face. Sorry. Yeah. I People tell me, like I've had this multiple times. Like you don't give any cues when you're joking. I don't like giving cues when when I'm joking around. Like it's like kind of like a puzzle. You got to figure out. And you coming back to stuff. Hold on. Here's a question, right? Like I suck at Twitter. I've tried really fucking hard. Suck
You're
at it.
so active on Twitter. Like you're very
I
active
know.
on Twitter. For someone
I'm
to
really
say
fucking active.
like you're so
Active.
you really
I
feel
know I'm
that you
fucking
suck at Twitter, like I'm always like that intimidates me to even like be present on Twitter. I'm like the amount of time you spent on Twitter, and then you tell me
yeah.
that you suck at Twitter. I'm like, okay,
No,
well, I
I'm
don't want to be
just
on the platform.
I just have like a few friends there, like friends over there, which is enough to keep me there. And then the content and the content are just addicting, so I'm just there. And yeah, I'm really, but my following hasn't grown. Yes, I am trying to grow it. I keep experimenting, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing wrong. Navi probably needs to get headphones. Just said, if you have to explain a joke, that means it wasn't funny. All right, wise guy. Yes, you're right. But some jokes aren't really meant to be funny uh,
I love it.
until
I
you
love
get them. Yeah, I know. Um, coming back to, I love our community. Like people are witty as hell.
it. They just get
Coming back to Twitter though, it's like okay, I want to meet people. I'm really good at LinkedIn. Like I can connect with LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn. I say something like 50 people immediately it, and I share other people's stuff on LinkedIn too. And I have genuine connections on LinkedIn.
mm.
But Twitter is just like, no, like I don't have a following on Twitter. I don't really talk on Twitter.
I do talk on
I
Twitter.
okay, I do
Sorry.
talk on Twitter, but I don't have like a following on Twitter. So when it comes to
I'll
your
tell you
career,
my I'll tell you my
when it, hold on. When career, when it comes to your career, right?
yeah.
Like this session is
Mm.
and we're not calling it's about networking. Maybe we should, but it's online for fun and profit.
Oh.
Well, you said something. Circling back now to what platform matters and
Mhm.
what platform you're on. Just you know me. What do you think it is that is about me as a person that makes it better for me rather than Twitter? What is it about?
So great question. So the reason why I'm talking about first format, chat, video, audio, and that, and now we're moving on to the platform, and then we'll move on to the actual conversations, because this shit matters, and I feel like nobody really goes over this. It's kind of like, the a lot of the sort of the pundits or the gurus networking and the career coaches all sort of like are shut down your throat, but then it's like how can we break that down? For me, like my theory on why your Twitter doesn't work is because Twitter, each platform has sort of like there's a there's like a voice that audience. Twitter, I feel like people kind of about not just like the technology, life, frustrations. It's sort of like really noisy. It's like when you're in a crowd or in your just kind of like
Yelling
really
in your
drunk,
ear.
and they're yelling in your ears. Like that's what Twitter feels like to me. And I only go there for the memes. Yeah. And it's an interesting place. I don't want to downplay. Like if it works for you guys, then like use it. But like it's not. What I'm trying to say is that like with these platforms, it's like they're not. You can't be on every single platform and be like, can't. If Twitter's your jam, then find that language doesn't work on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very, very professional community and a professional. So a certain language, adequate, a certain like tone that works not going to work on Twitter. And like, I don't talk about that. So I think that's what I wanted to just line. Um, I like to keep
Yeah.
some social. I just saw a tweet on. I just saw a message on Twitch. Yeah, I completely agree.
What's the
That the
message?
certain
I can't see
I'd
it.
like
Can
to
you read
keep
the message?
them. Yeah, well, if you let me read it, um, I'd like to keep some social media separate from my professional life, and that's how I feel. Like I don't, like when I start on these different platforms for Mint Bean, I honestly don't like using them for my personal because then they just become like work. And
Mm.
we've stopped doing a lot of the Instagram stuff on Mint Bean because rethink about our social media strategy. And when we were doing Instagram for Mint Bean, I stopped using Instagram. It was just like I see this for work and I just content on Instagram. But now that we're not using it, I'm back on, but I'm only a watcher on Instagram, and I try to like limit my time there as well because I don't want to get stuck in the scroll. Like I'll
Mm.
go in for like maybe like towards the end of my day, take a look at it for 15-20 minutes, and then I'm out because I can get stuck there. It's like one of those like places that just leave like with wanting more, and that feeling of dopamine is like serious on Instagram. Like a different topic for a different day. But yeah, let's come back to LinkedIn because I feel like let's talk about how to. Um,
I gotta address what all the stuff that he said though. Yeah, I just had a light bulb moment. For people who know me, I separate work and life. Hence, I'm married to my business all day, and I don't feel like I'm working all day. I just feel like playing video games. It's honestly my preferred way of engaging with the world. Is I just want everything to feel like a video game because guess what? My earliest memories, my formative world, was video games. I mean, I was playing strategy games and RPG games when 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I just my personality is just I just want life to feel like a video game, and for me video games are not always fun. Like it's all about winning sometimes. Sometimes it's about exploring. So I've always looked at life that way. And when people say, "Oh yeah, you got to work life balance," me personally, it doesn't make sense. For me, it's compute. It does not compute. And what you're saying, my insight, I've thought about this long and hard. A lot of insight is okay. Well, some people just do not want work. They just do not want to talk about work. For me, there's no fucking difference. Like my hobby is my work is my hobby, and for me, there's like no difference. So obviously, when I'm on LinkedIn and everybody's tuned on to work mode, for me, it's like liberating. It's like I'm talking about stuff that is fun for me. I'm passionate about it. I'm enthusiastic about. Oh my god, you're just like you blew my mind when you said that. Like you literally blew my mind. It's like holy shit, like wow.
Another thing is that I was gonna say, babe. Another thing is that it's so hard, like when you're working with your partner professionally, to not address
Well, first off,
language.
why are you in like formal clothes in Madhouse? Like you're supposed to be in a t-shirt on
It's
Madhouse.
because I
You're in
have a
LinkedIn mode.
meeting earlier today, so I like had to dress up for it. I wear a
Fair.
t-shirt this time. But okay. But the time of the when
Mm.
what you're saying, where you're saying it, the time of the day. LinkedIn, everyone's like I think it doesn't matter what time of the day it is. Like even in after
Mm.
hours, you'll see like motivational posts or inspirational posts or
Mm.
people talking about what they're building. LinkedIn, everyone's very much about work.
Yeah.
Twitter, it's a mixed bag. Like people are either playing around with the technology and they hated it, or they want to share their experience, or like it's like they got, or like after hours it becomes very after hours. No one's really talking about work. So time of the day actually really how you open up that conversation. But just sharing your thoughts, and for about talking to strangers, I think the first approach is sort of like one of the things I think maybe a little bit later in my career cultivating who you're following on these platforms, and then like reassessing those followings as you grow as a professional and on a personal level. So
But what
going
does that
back,
have to do with talking to those people? Like cultivating
yeah,
your audience. Like I think we're skipping ahead. I want to go a little deeper though. Like yeah, you can call him, and I think a lot of people know the importance of not just letting anybody to your feed, like pruning people out and cutting them off your feed because you don't want to hear what they have to say.
but I'll tell you
What's
why.
the hmm,
So because you want to engage with that like resonate with you, and if you don't go back and reassess your following,
hmm,
you're not gonna, your feed and your mind like of people that don't necessarily speak the same language of like where you are in the time continuum of,
hmm,
so you're not able to like or comment on what some of the
right?
things they're
Which is
saying.
why
You're not
Facebook
real.
just fucking blows now. Yeah. Because your grandparents are on Facebook. Yeah, yeah. Gotcha. So like, let's talk about let's drill deeper, right? Like, LinkedIn is obviously for workaholics. If you're a workaholic like me, I highly recommend LinkedIn. Cannot recommend LinkedIn if you're all about work and you're into marketing, business, economics. If a restaurant, your wife is talking about, oh, I want, and you're thinking, how many people do they seat? What's their capacity at day a week and how much money are they making? And it's had both conversations, which is why we're also in business. But yeah, like if one product you consumed, you see a business and you want to analyze it, you should be on LinkedIn. Um, and if you want to grow your career, if you want to grow your get a better job, all every single person in MintBean, the first thing I say is get on LinkedIn because all the recruiters are on there, of course. So LinkedIn,
LinkedIn
you
is
have to
built
kind of
for
be there.
recruiters.
Hmm?
Did you, we shared this all the time that LinkedIn was. By the way, your video feed is like is copy. Um, I know
Yeah,
we've been
it's
we,
I know. It's like it's funny because your video feed is choppy to me, so I
mm,
don't know what's going on. But just give me a
I think
second. Hold on. No. I know what it is. So all right, let's try that, and let's see if that works. I just changed the setting. I stopped uploads for a second. Let's see if
okay.
that
Yeah,
makes
that's
it
for sure.
better.
You've stopped sort of like it's
Glitching.
like yeah, like that that like 90s feeling of like
Hmm.
watching, early 2000 when you would watch video on YouTube, it was like so bad, like you couldn't, the quality
Hmm.
was so shit, but you didn't want to watch it on the main TV because it was content that you didn't want to consume with the family, like growing up in a large house. Not
Yeah, I feel that way about OnlyFans.
not that not that kind of content. Not that kind of content. Oh gosh, where's this conversation going?
All right,
Um,
so coming back. I mean, this is Madhouse. This is you're the one wearing formal clothing. You're making things stiff around here. We
oh
should be
my
talking about
god.
OnlyFans. Okay, coming back to Twitter. All right, so LinkedIn is for workaholics and people who want to grow their career and connect with recruiters. Great. Twitter is a mixed bag. I'm hearing you got to find your audience out there on Twitter, and you got to follow the people who you need to follow. I feel like I'm following a lot of fake coding influencers, and I need to like just cut them off. Like somehow I just end up following people who I like who first look like they have interesting things to say, but then you kind of figure out that they haven't coded more than a couple of years, and they don't know, or they haven't coded at all. They don't know what they're talking about.
Mm.
So I
They're
don't
just
go on
trying to
Twitter.
they're just trying
I
to
don't want
call.
to engage with those people. Yeah, like I don't want to engage
Unfollow
with those
them.
people.
Unfollow them. That's
Hmm,
what I'm saying you need to do, is that you need to reassess. Like if your feed, if people
hmm,
are saying something on your feed constantly
right,
that doesn't resonate with you, like
right.
how are you supposed to engage with someone that doesn't resonate with you? How are you supposed to, leave a comment when everything that they're saying is like alien to you, or like
Hmm.
you don't necessarily believe in it, but yet that's the following that you've built for yourself, right? So
Mm,
you're actually way more in control of what your feed looks like. I mean, for God's sake, you choose who you follow, right?
yeah.
So unfollow, like, have a, and this is why I don't like the Twitter algorithm. When you follow someone, it recommends like 5 or 6 people, but it
Mm,
doesn't allow you to open up their profile, so you can't explore. Like,
mm,
I've seen this with Twitter, and that annoys the crap out of me. Is
mm,
that, it'll package, like, oh, five, follow these 6 similar people that are saying the same thing that this person is saying. So then
mm,
when you try to click on their profile, you can't. You have to,
mm.
like, go on a different screen to, like,
So
actually. It's, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
it's annoying. No, 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 I
Yeah,
get it. I get it. It's annoying. Like Twitter, I agree with you.
yeah.
So what I'm hearing then is, I mean, if we were to think about this as networking in person,
Mm,
and talking to strangers when you go to a conference. Like there's this massive hackathon running at Midbean right now that everybody's here is probably a part of. There are 900 people. It went up to 900 people last night, so more people registered yesterday. So
mm,
now we're at I think 910 registrations. It's the biggest event that we've done so far. I'm super excited. Like I feel like I'm high this week. Like I just feel like I'm high. Like I'm that excited. Also, there's sleep deprivation. Um, the whole the, the whole experience at an in-person conference or an in-person hackathon would have been I have business cards or I have like some way to connect with people. In a conference, I would have business cards. I would probably be looking around. Like when I go to an in-person conference, I just go for the networking.
mm,
Like I don't care about the content. I can get better content like online and it's not interactive, so it's just like YouTube. Unlike
okay.
an online conference where you can actually chat with
Mm,
people, an in-person conference for me has always felt like, why the hell am I here? So I'll go there. I'll go there half an hour early
mm,
and I'll meet people half an hour before the conversation begins. That's when people who really want to meet other people are hanging around in the hallway, and the hallway is where you kind of meet people.
mm,
And then the conference starts, everybody goes heads down. I get bored out of my mind and I'm like reading a book on my phone while there are speakers on stage. I have no problem saying that. It's just not a user-friendly experience.
mm,
And sometimes there's an interesting topic, I'll tune in for that. But whenever I see somebody hanging out in the hallway and they seem interesting, I'll actually leave the live event. I have no problem leaving the live event, going out to the hallway,
mm,
striking up a conversation. And
mm,
then after the event is over or in between, people go out for drinks or lunch. Like some conferences have beer, some conferences have wine. I go over there, I get my free beer, my free wine, my free pizza. I walk around and I talk to people.
mm,
And the most amazing conversations happen, right? Like in between the main show. The main show is not the main show,
mm,
and it's such a waste of time. I feel like for every 4 hour conference that I've been to, I've had maybe two connections or three
mm,
connections that I walked away with. I don't like aggressively pursue conversations because it just fucks up my energy,
mm,
and I come across as desperate
mm,
because I'm like moving. I feel desperate if
mm,
I'm just like cutting conversations off and moving to the next one.
mm,
If I tried, maybe I would have 10 conversations at a
mm,
conference if I tried really fucking hard for like
mm,
4 hours.
mm,
And it just in on social media, if I'm engaging on social media in 4 hours,
mm,
I will probably connect with well, I will probably be seen. My name and my profile picture will be seen by about at minimum 200 to 300 people, maybe
mm.
more, maybe 1,000 or 2,000. And I will probably be able to actually bump into people and talk to them. Like, I'll probably bump into people and talk to about 50 of them
Okay, you
in
guys.
4 hours.
Okay, I want to
So,
dive.
like,
I want to
yeah.
dive into everything that you said. It's sort of kind of like also. I had a light bulb moment there as well. I think, when we talk about these physical conferences, and this is why, like, companies are so aggressive in terms of, hey, let's bring off. physical conferences back online, or not back online. Hold on, let me find my words. Um,
You find your words. If anybody wants to hop on a call and if anybody wants to talk with us about this stuff, hop onto Riverside and there's a button at the bottom of Riverside. If you don't have a link to Riverside, tell us on Twitch, tell us on whatever channel you're watching this on, and we'll respond. I'm assuming that Navi's on YouTube and Twitch, and I'm watching Discord and Riverside. So if you have a question, just type it out and we would love to actually have you face to face and get you on the call and talk to you, not just chat with you. So let us know. Navi, you were saying.
yeah, I think of that Drake song every time you say "call me." Um,
Oh, myself. Oh, that one. Oh man.
I'm like two.
Oh
So
man.
back to what I
Yeah.
was saying about physical conferences, I think that there's this struggle between the corporate world of like how do we make organic conversations happen online? And the truth is that that replication of organic conversations that happen inside of like everything about physical conferences suck except for those hallway conversations that you just
Yes.
mentioned, right?
Yep.
Like it's very hard to replicate hallway conversations. And you're right, like you kind of do feel fake and phony when you try to be like, hey, my name is Navi and blah 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 blah, and then you move on and you try to do that with like 15 people.
Right.
But you can actually make some really good connections in those hallways, and like just kind of, you know, you find people in a space and like it's like, oh, they're doing something interesting, let me go chat with them. So how do we replicate that online? How do we replicate hallways? And you know, I like we've been thinking about this sort of problem for a while as well within Mint Bean. It's like, how do you have organic conversations with people where it doesn't feel like, you know, you're sort of trying to sell yourself, or say something that
So,
doesn't
so
really
how?
fit your
Let's cut to it.
DNA.
Like how? I
I
want
love
to
that.
know.
I
How do
love the
you do it?
answer from you
You're
that's just like
fucking
cut to the
You're
chase.
fucking great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you know me. You
So,
know me. So how the fuck do you do it? Like how I do it is I just comment on people. I'm not great at it. What I do is I do pull. I don't do push. So I put content out there. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of interesting stuff, and I'm always thinking about ideas. And I find that my ideas resonate with people. So I just put my ideas out there, and I've found that some ways of talking to people just do not work with me. Like if I go out there and if somebody's talking about topic X and I say X, then chances are I'll come across like a know-it-all. So I don't do that anymore. Instead of
yeah.
doing X plus one, what I'll do is I will go away and I'll just make a post about something that's interesting, and I'll be the person who's starting the conversation rather than responding to someone. As something as subtle as that will then get people to talk to me, and then the genuine connection begins. You
Yeah.
know, like people message me, like people reply to that post, I reply back to them, it goes back and forth, and then I take them into direct message. Like if I find them interesting, I'll just say, "Hey, that was a great conversation," or I won't even say that. I'll just be like, uh, I'll message them and I'll just be like, "Hey, I checked out your profile, really cool. How's life over in South Africa or
Mm,
wherever they're from?"
mm,
And that'll like just if they're interested in connecting with me, it kind of goes organically from there. But the hallway is where serendipity happens. Like there's a lucky collision of two
yeah.
people, and then it's up to you to kind of take that
You
away. And I
replace
feel
that.
like
So, okay. So the new hallway is what I'm trying to say is the new hallway is your feed. Your feed is the
your
hallway.
feed is the
Yeah,
hallway.
your feed is the hallway, right?
I'm
And
I'm
that
I'm putting that on LinkedIn.
okay, go for it. So like here's the thing, right? I wanted to say a couple of things I like forgot. There's just so much that's like so you know, because this is a community full of engineers and developers, you know, I've noticed one thing about you and me is that, and this is something that I recognized even when I was like coming into development, is that we don't think the same. Like my brain pattern, like is like I have like several nodes open at the same time. And like the nodes are just kind of like moving in from one node to jumping, actually, not even the lines are not always connected, but they're jumping from one node to the other. Whereas where I've noticed with, like, obviously knowing you for as long as I have, and is that your the way that your mind works, and I've seen this with, you know, large portion of the developer community, is that the left side is very prominent in terms of, like, just thinking about problems, and, like, so your mind is always problem solving, and it's like, okay, well, and when you don't get something, it's like you don't when you don't, like, see how you can solve that problem, it doesn't, you're not able to solve it because you don't fully grasp the problem. Am I saying that correctly? Does that make sense?
Yeah, like you don't fully understand.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's kind of why I wanted to walk you from, like, you know, the starting point and to where we are now. We're almost 50 minutes in. I can talk about this stuff for another 50, but you know, so, you said something interesting about when someone says a message and then you want to add value to it. So first of all, make sure your medium is correct, right? So when I say medium, now I'm referring to the platform. So
Mm,
depending on if you've built a relationship with that person, let's say if someone, you know, I think you and me are an exception because we run a community and we're really kind, with no matter if that opinion is someone that disagrees with us. We won't call them out unless they're being rude or just kind of like being a dick, for lack of a better word. You know, we take other people's opinions even if they differ from ours. But a lot of people are not like that. So make sure that the person that you're adding value to, where they've said X and you say you agree with X, but it's X plus Y, right? So if it's X plus Y in in that comment that you've left on their post, is that person an ally? Is that person a friend? Right? Does that person know that, like, you've established a relationship with them where it's like, you know what, we can have a difference of opinion, and you're not gonna call me out. You're not gonna you know, leave a negative reply to my reply, but you're gonna it's like I've shared my perspective on your perspective, and now you're gonna counter share your perspective, and it's like a great conversations happen that way, or like in
mm,
person, right? Like I've
mm,
seen how you know, like one of our mutual friends will lead, like, you
mm,
guys have massive disagreements on languages and frameworks, right, is
mm.
an understatement. And you know, but like they don't turn into like, you know, we're such good friends with him, and
No,
they
we're
never
not.
they never turn into a place where it's like, oh, I never want to speak to this person again. But
Mm,
yet, you know, you disagree on a lot of the decisions around technologies. And it's like, how are you able to have those types of conversations in person but yet not online? Is that
mm,
first you need to establish a rapport with that person where you
mm,
feel like it is a safe space for you to
mm.
have a difference of opinion.
So
Um,
is it a timing and rhythm thing? Is it just a different
It's
pace
complex.
online?
It's honestly complex. It's not something that, like, I'm gonna give you the magic formula and you're gonna be like, "Whoa, she just
But
unlocked
well,
something."
I
Um,
don't agree with that though. Like there is a magic formula. I feel like I want to dig into that magic formula though. Like is
okay,
it a
we
pace
can.
thing? Is it a pacing thing? Is it just slower in some places online and faster in some places online? Because I feel
So,
like
so
I
Twitter
feel
can
like
be faster. Okay, let me try. So
mm,
Twitter can be faster, but you need to be sharing your own opinions as well. You can't just be
mm,
commenting and liking other people's opinions. You can start with that,
mm,
right? Whether it's whatever platform you choose.
mm,
And remember, each platform has its own rhythm, right? A rhythm of, like,
mm,
what type of content does really well, what type of content doesn't do as well. So first of all, find that platform that you jam with. Then start kind of like engaging where you're liking and creating your hallway, your feed. And then from
you're
that,
creating your hallway. That's
you're
interesting.
yeah, you're creating your hallway.
Mm.
So you create your hallway, and then after you've done creating your hallway, then start building relationship with those people that are in your hallway. Like, you
When
know
you
what?
say creating your hallway, what does
Yeah.
that look like to you? Because to me, like I feel like what you're talking about is just putting yourself.
Like just putting out messages, replying to people, engaging with them, sharing content. Is that what you mean by creating your hallway?
No. So
Then what does it mean?
okay, for example, like on, I think like Instagram and Twitter are the best examples of the hallway because LinkedIn has an algorithm that's like they keep changing it, and I feel like they're experimenting with it like really fast. Where the people that you follow, you don't always see their feed. Like
No,
you'll,
no, no, no. Their algorithm is actually stable.
mm,
You don't see the people you follow. You see the things that the people you follow like.
mm. Sometimes I feel like I don't see your post, like I don't see them, like unless.
You won't see my post unless somebody likes it. And if other people like my post, then you might see it. But it's a really sparse algorithm. Like if you have, like on LinkedIn, people's connections tend to be massive. It's like 500 to 1,000 connections is like average. So there's no way that LinkedIn can, I'm speculating, but my guess is that there's no way that LinkedIn can share everything by everyone to everyone. So out of 1,000 people that you follow or 2,000 people that you follow, I think you probably see like at any given time a random selection of three or four. And then on top of that, you see another random selection of stuff that they've liked, which means you're seeing like three people you like or you follow, and then another seven people that you don't follow
Okay.
is what it feels like to me. Because on LinkedIn, they want to encourage that serendipity. They want to encourage you bumping into new people. So what I found is that I'm always seeing stuff by new people. I'm never seeing stuff by the same old person because there's no such concept as follow.
I
I'm
was
connected
wondering
with
what.
them.
Yeah, that's interesting that you've like you've understood the algorithm. I was confused, but you
Hmm.
know, like another node that opened up in my head was, wouldn't it be interesting having someone who's building these algorithms share that with us in Mint and have a
Oh,
conversation with an engineer who's like doing that kind of stuff, and it's like, it's
I
like
don't know anybody in social media. I know people in like tech companies and like platform companies. Do we know anybody in Facebook? I feel like we
I feel
do.
like we do. I know someone that works in the Facebook head office in the UK,
Hmm.
but I don't know exactly which team she's a part of. So
Hmm.
I can reach out to her and like just throw it out there. Like I don't know if like some of these companies are not comfortable sharing that publicly. So I don't know
Yeah,
how how much we'll actually get someone, but it would
I
be
see.
interesting. It would be interesting. I'll explore the opportunity.
Hmm.
But coming back to what you were saying, so when I think about that hallway, so these people are sharing their thoughts. And thank you for sharing that LinkedIn algorithm. I actually didn't know like why
Hmm.
that was. Um,
Yeah,
so
I'm
when
speculating. I don't know if that's how it works. That's how it feels as a senior developer and software architect. That's how it
that
feels.
makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. So, like when you look at Twitter, for example, right?
Hmm.
So on your feed, as you open up your scroll, these people are sharing ideas, right? So, like these random people that you don't know, strangers, are
Hmm.
sharing ideas that are living inside of your subconscious mind as you open up these platforms. So, because that's the hallway that you've built, if you don't like the best way to engage with those ideas is to make sure that like e a e e or a that like those ideas resonate with you, and that those ideas don't like they don't kind of go against who you are and as a person professionally personally,
Hmm.
and then b like engage with it, leave a comment so that like you also get exposed to their network of the people that follow them, right? So it's kind of like if sometimes I don't always comment and like the post that you share, because I don't want to do that to like my audience as well. It's like, oh, she's always sharing what Monarch has to say. But
Oh,
if you
you're holding out on me. Okay, yeah, yeah. You're not sharing my stuff. You just want to grow your own audience. Yeah, all right, all
no,
right. I see how it is. I see how it is.
I like if I have something to add or if I like really liked what most of the time I love what you say anyways, but you know, um but if I have something to add to what you've shared, then I'll leave a comment. Or if I'm just busy and I don't have time to leave a comment, I'll just like it. But I am conscious about what I like and what I, because it does take a minute for me to like, I don't like leaving a comment when I haven't really thought about what that person has said and how do I engage back with it. I am like, I don't just kind of leave, like, I've seen, I've seen people kind of like leave comments that are like hashtag facts. And like to me, that's a little bit like hilarious because, like, okay, like thank you. Um, but like, how does that, and it's sort of a lazy way of kind of like, I don't know, like appreciating what they have to say or appearing in that person's feed. I don't know. Like I don't know the motivation behind it, so I don't want to say that, but at the same time, like it's not you're not really engaging with the content. You're being a little lazy. And
So it's
sometimes
like just random messages don't work for most people.
I mean, it's okay sometimes. Like,
Mm,
it's okay to do that every once a while, but
mm,
don't do it all the time. Like, it's okay if you did that, one out of every 10 messages, like it
mm,
was just like, one word where you didn't really say much. It was just sort of an appreciation or you just wanted to increase that particular idea within your own network. But at the same time, don't just do that. Share your ideas because that's what at the end of the day what recruiters like when we hire and I'm at the top of the funnel filtering for us. You better believe I look at every single link that's on that resume. So I'll go into your LinkedIn feed, I'll go into the person's Twitter, and I'm like, do I want to bring that type of energy into our
mm,
company? Like, who is this person like?
mm,
So it's on a public forum and it's fair play. So that's what these hiring managers are doing. So talking to strangers online for fun and for profit, that's what that is all about, right? Like you're putting
mm,
out energy, and how do you want to
mm,
take that energy and channel it for professional growth.
mm. Yeah. I guess in closing, um, it's just I think in closing the one biggest tip that I would add to that is don't forget to clean up your profile
Mm.
and to iterate on your profile, because your profile is going to that's cleaning up and iterating on your profile is like changing clothes and keeping up with fashion. It's also kind of like when your body weight changes, you don't buy the same size. Like if you get more muscular, then you don't wear the same baggy clothes. Maybe you do. If you get fat, you don't wear the same skinny clothes. Maybe you do. But it's like you, depending on the seasons, your clothes change. Depending on who you are, your clothes change. If you're a developer, you're probably in hoodies all the time. If you're a hiring manager or a recruiter, let's say you change careers, then now you need to look like a hiring manager or recruiter. A lot of you folks are changing into software development. You need to look like a software developer. Not just say I'm a software developer, but you need to have a photograph that looks like one that a software developer would have. Go out there and do your research. Look, your photo is super important. Go out there. I don't pay attention to it. I really, really
We need to
should.
get a photographer. I was actually talking to a friend. Both of our pictures are terrible.
Mm.
They're
Oh, did they
old.
say that?
Um,
No, did they really? Like, it's like I'm looking for feedback. Did they really say that?
yeah.
Okay.
I have someone coming. In like a week, I think.
Do you
Um,
really?
yeah, I do.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I just
Like
like
that'll really help our conversations. That's
yeah.
why I'm excited. Is that's another tool in our tool belt for growing Mint Bean. So I'm super excited about that. Okay.
I think that like there's a lot of resources out there when it comes to how to clean up your LinkedIn, how to clean up your GitHub, how to clean up, some people turn off their Twitter if they don't use it professionally.
Mm,
And that's some of the advice even career coaches offer, right? If you're not like when you're in that application process, it's okay to turn off or make it private so
Mm,
that hiring managers like can't take a peek into your personal world if that's not what you use it for,
mm,
or sorry, if that's what you use that specific platform for. So but yeah, there's tons of resources online how to like elevate a lot of these platforms. But yeah, I think like this type of conversation doesn't happen where it's like, what's the purpose behind these conversations? Like, why are you actually there?
mm,
And how much time should you be spending, right? Like,
mm,
how much time in a day should you allocate for talking to strangers, whether it's for fun or profit? Because you should be building. You're a developer.
mm.
You're very new to your development journey. Majority of your time needs to be spent creating,
Mm.
and you're a creator. That's who you are, and that's the journey that you were going down. So
All developers are creators, yeah. So
yeah,
what is it that you're creating? It's almost like you're halfway artist, halfway engineer, halfway scientist. It's almost like being, Jesus was a carpenter, right? Like it's almost like being a carpenter. It's almost like
yeah.
your craft is important. I really wonder if there are any stories about Jesus as a carpenter. I'd be super interested in if anybody has any information about it. The Bible starts when he's like you see him as a kid, you see him born. I don't even know if that's in the Bible. And then all of a sudden he's a 30-year-old. And that whole aspect of him being a carpenter as a developer, I'm really interested in hearing stories about other craftsmen. And personally, I have a deep interest in religion, also mythology. So I love collecting stories and hearing stories from all sorts of faith traditions, and even mythological traditions. So it's not just religion, but it's also mythology. Like I'm really interested in that. So if anybody has any info on Jesus as a carpenter, I would love to hear anybody who knows any stories. But I've looked, I haven't found. So, just putting an ask out there, soft ask
Sometimes
about.
there's stories that get passed down. Like I remember,
Mm,
like even though like my we're at time,
yes.
but maybe story for
No, no,
another.
no, 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 no. Finish it. Finish it.
I was just gonna say like I grew up like my parents are Sikh. I'm not very. Both of us aren't very religious. I don't think.
Mm.
I think we do identify as atheist. But
Mm, I don't think atheist is a good word. I think I don't identify as any of the popular labels. Like I if you ask me what I believed in, I wouldn't say that I was agnostic. I wouldn't say I was atheist. I think that's too firm a label on something that's not really a clean fit into any of those things. It's
yeah.
like yeah,
That's
but
interesting. Oh, that makes me want to like talk about this stuff, but it's a very different topic than talking to strangers.
we can do
So-
it next time. Yeah.
okay.
I mean,
All
is
right.
God a stranger and do you pray? Um,
That's a good one. I like that one.
hmm.
That's interesting. Okay, maybe that's a future
you were s-
conversation.
you were
I
saying something about Sikhism.
Yeah, I grew up Sikh, and I always believed that I was more spiritual, and I used to hear these stories. I never read any of the religious scriptures, because I can't read them. They're in Granthi, I think. No, what's the oh my God,
The
mom,
Sikh Bible, basically.
Sikh Bible. I don't know. My mom's
Hmm.
gonna be so disappointed. I don't even know the language that it's written in.
The Gurmukhi.
Thank you. Wow. Uh,
It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah. So it's a very ancient language, but I've heard the stories from my mom, and so it's like sometimes like with these, I've heard the stories of Guru Nanak, and those stories have stayed with me. But
Hmm.
even though I've never read the scriptures, so I feel like when you talked about Jesus as a carpenter, sometimes these stories get shared down, but yet
Mm,
they're not captured in the books, whether it's like
mm,
religious figures or whether they're figures in history. Like
mm,
we were talking about Benjamin Franklin the other day, and you shared like what you had learned about him. I didn't even know like why he was on the, and I shared this like in our last conversation. I didn't know why he was on the on the American $100.
mm,
um and I was so it was interesting like hearing his stories, and like what an amazing life that this man has, extraordinary life that he's
mm,
had. So yeah, I think sharing stories and understanding our past allows us to understand our present and future and what we want to create in the world. I don't know if this loops into talking to strangers, but there it is.
Well, it loops into everything, I think. But yeah, the stories, it loops in because you're talking about telling stories, and I'm telling the story of the developer in the abstract. And because developers, software development is about as close to classical magic as we've ever gotten. You're writing and speaking magic words. Well, you're not speaking, but you're writing magic words. Somebody said it really beautifully. You're writing magic words. Those magic words are vibrating in a crystal in the sky, in an invisible crystal in the sky that vibrates at 2 billion times a second. And based on the words you've written, things are changing in the world, all over the world. You're casting a spell. And it's not magic. It's all pure science and engineering. Um, but but I think in a world where the line is getting blurred between the written word and the and the enacted intent, I think is probably the best way to put it, is if the written word is the enactment of intent, then you need to now look at um, different mythologies. You can't really the hero's journey is not good enough. The the figure of the warrior or the hero or the knight doesn't apply because we're not talking about the sword, we're talking about the pen here. And with the pen, the figure of all of the figure of the poet doesn't apply because poets don't act and yet engineers do. The figure of the writer, like Shakespeare, like that archetype it doesn't exist. The closest that you have is the classical figure of the magician, and even that is not there. Like we don't fundamentally know how to deal with software or with software development. We don't fundamentally know how to wrap our heads around it because it wasn't around 100 years ago. Every other archetype or role or job or post that I've talked about, every other job that I've talked about right now, they've been around for thousands of years. Even sailing has been around for 5,000 years. You know what a sailor looks like. What does a developer look like? What does it
That's
know?
you put it so beautifully. You know, that kind of reminds me of like the fact that software development has such limited idols. You know,
Hmm.
when we think about the software space, it's like, you know, we think of Elon Musk, think of Steve Jobs, we think of Wozniak, we think of, you know, maybe even Jeff Bezos, but like because he's got so much, there's also a lot of cynicism when we think
Yeah,
of
four
like,
out of four out of those three, three out of those four, they don't anymore code. I mean, Steve Jobs is always a business person. He didn't code a day in his life.
yeah,
Bezos runs a tech giant, but he's a business person. Musk used to code, but now he's a business person. So
yeah.
he's close, but he's more of an
He's like the
innovator and a business
closest.
person.
He's the
He's the
closest that,
closest.
yeah.
Wozniak is more core, but Wozniak doesn't appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
What is it that like Linus Torvalds doesn't appeal to anybody? Um, like who are we going to look at? Like Grace Hopper? I mean, that's the closest you get, and even then, that's not a figure that you can internalize and say, I want to be like Grace Hopper. But what does that look like? She lived in a different time.
Yeah.
Ada Lovelace, she lived in a different time. You only have portraits of her. What do women look at? Like there's just so much work that needs to be done when it comes to crafting uh, to meaning making. Meaning making is basically what I'm talking about. Like, what meaning do we make out of software development? And that's why I was asking about Jesus and him being a carpenter. Is all right. Well, how are craftspeople looked at when the other part of what they did was also make change in the world? Like Benjamin Franklin is like that. He was a craftsperson. He started as a printer, like as in not like a machine that's sitting on your table, but like somebody who would manually compose heavy steel text on a tray, manually put like pound like 50 or 100 pounds of pressure on it, then manually physically, put that leaf of newspaper up to dry, and then compose all of that. Like, that's hard work, but he's also working with the written word just like we all are.
Mm,
And I'm just trying to find like a good way to craft meaning out of software development. I've been doing it for 10 years. I
yeah.
know what it means, but it's like, how do you tell your 16-year-old niece, make it concrete? How do you tell your 16-year-old niece in 2 words or 3 words what a software developer does?
I don't. We've tried.
Yeah, yeah, you don't. But yet it's the most powerful profession out there.
It is. So yeah. On that note,
Anyway, on
um,
that note,
so I guess to the small group of people that are watching, you can be that person that makes the difference, and like there is no idol of like how who to follow, how to be online. I think we are sort of software development industry is still finding that voice in itself. So make your own voice and make it heard and make sure that it's your own and you're saying things that are relevant to you. I think we'll leave it there.
and talk to strangers.
Definitely. All right.
Cool. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. And what's our topic tomorrow, Navi?
I don't believe we have a conversation tomorrow,
Hmm.
but we do
We have
have one. We're
in 3 days.
Yeah. So Friday we're doing a welcome. We're doing a welcome wagon, and then we're talking about your favorite subject,
Hmm.
workaholics, work weekends. This is your baby, and I will talk about my frustrations as a partner. But
Are you going to do that to me? All right, cool.
absolutely, I'll
Deal.
call you out on your bullshit. And also just kind of like, but I'll also share how you've helped me turn the noise off. Like
Uh-huh.
I used to get distracted very easily because of how I have that monkey mind. You know this. Like,
Uh-huh.
I see a
And I
shiny
helped you out of it,
you.
and you owe me a lot, and
All right,
you're
all right,
completely indebted to me,
okay, okay,
and I've made such a massive difference in your life. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
all right.
Okay, yeah.
But
No,
it
it's
was
whoa,
good.
whoa, whoa, hold on. Jokes aside, jokes aside. The new member welcome wagon happens on July 30th. That's on Friday, and we'll be. This is a recurring event. We'll be doing this for everybody who's new to Mint Bean every month, especially after maybe multiple times a month, especially after every single event that's
Mm.
large like this one has been. You're brand new to Mint Bean, we would love to just walk you through what the community has to offer, give you a tour of what the community is, the ways that you can take advantage of it to enhance your career, and all the different parts of it. So that's on Friday, and it's logistical, but it's also a meet and greet. So I'm hoping to have more of an asynchronous networking event for the Welcome Wagon and also for Madhouse going forward. I'm experimenting with a few things like I always am. On Saturday, because it's a Saturday, we're going to have a conversation about workaholism, and I'll be leading the conversation. And as a very proud workaholic, I think that workaholism is the best thing that's happened to mankind or
Oh,
humanity. I
God.
don't. I think mankind is out of mode, but I think workaholism is the best
That's a
thing that's
heavy
happened to
statement.
humanity.
That's a heavy statement.
And I think workaholism is just a bad name for something that is extremely positive. And yes, it's a fire that can burn you, but it's also that warms your home. And how do you deal with burnout when you're a workaholic? How do you conceptualize burnout? And how do you have a more healthy relationship with your work, especially when your work is something that you care about deeply and that you don't have just a transactional relationship with your work. It's something that you use to define yourself and you use it to work on yourself. How do you develop a healthy relationship with work when you're going to be tuning in on 5 p.m. on a Saturday, and I did that on purpose because I just want the workaholics in that conversation. Or if you're, workaholism curious, if you're like a
Oh
workaholic
my
curious,
God.
you're
Yes,
welcome to
get
come in as
it.
well.
You like work.
But it's not work. Work is such a terrible name for what it is. That, I mean, it's your life's purpose
Sure.
about. It's what you do from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Your prime energies go into this thing. So, what is this thing that you're doing with the main part of your life? And why have you shunted everything that's not in that everything that actually matters? You've shunted outside of work. Your family has been moved outside of work. Your personal meaning has been moved outside of work. Why? And how do you fuse the two so that your meaning and your work are the same? For me, work is not a dirty word. For me, work is not something you do that's painful. For me, work is this is the business of your life. This is what you were meant for. And if you're not there, if you hate your work, your job is to as soon as possible shift into a field that is your work, is your life's work. I think that's the proper purpose of work, and that's what workaholism really is. And when you talk about workaholism and you compare it to alcoholism, I think there's some really bad wordplay there, and it's very intentional. And it's one of the opiates of the masses. Is my opinion. I can go into it. I can talk about it too. But yeah, like it's a topic that's important to me. It's not something that's Twitter friendly. So I just thought I'd do it on Saturday in Madhouse.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I think you put it really beautifully. Seriously, jokes aside, it's one of those things that I really admire and respect in you. I know that I try to like sometimes be really funny about how I say certain things, but it's one of your more admirable qualities. So yeah, I do look
One of
forward
the
to
few. One of the few.
it.
Um, okay. Well, I think that's all I got.
Ciao.
Okay, see y'all next time. Is there outro music? There has to be outro music. Is there?
I don't know.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Wait, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try
Okay,
it.
go
Here
for
we
it.
go.
Go for it. Go for it.
And play.
That was
No,
that was
that was really
that
bad.
was really short.